Hello, and welcome to the No Wrong Notes podcast, a show hosted by me, Veronica Kokis, holistic voice teacher and singer just like you. Grab a cup of tea, relax, and sit back as we discuss all things singing technique, mindset tips, and more so you can show up as the most confident and creative singer you can be. Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of the No Wrong Notes podcast. I've got another treat for you guys this week as I sat down with a friend and colleague, Chelsea Camin. I connected with Chelsea a couple of years ago over Instagram when she was teaching voice full-time. And we connected and bonded, of course, as voice teachers. And also, we share a lot of common interests in things like astrology and aliens, of all things woo, basically. And so in this conversation, we sat down and chatted about how she's actually pivoted over the past couple of years from teaching voice full-time to now working as a hypnotist and medium. She specializes in past life regressions and personal liberation work. But in this conversation, we got a little far out there, a little woo-woo, bringing that in here. But we did chat about, how we can tune into our desires, both as individuals, as singers, tuning into those desires and giving voice to those desires. So really owning the things that we're really passionate about as musicians, as individuals, and really taking action to bring those desires to life. She also talks a lot about things like boundaries and, listening to your internal voice. So even if you're not super into the woo-woo and the far out stuff that we kind of talk about a little bit in this episode, there's still so much good nuggets of wisdom in this episode that I think everyone can learn from. Now, before I get into the episode, I want to tell you a little bit about Chelsea. As I mentioned, she is a certified hypnotist and medium specializing in past life regressions and personal liberation work. After earning her MA from Columbia University in music and music education, she hungered for more knowledge in the esoteric and mystical, topics she'd always been interested in. Using her combined knowledge of singing and healing, as well as moving through her own battles, she found the power of true, authentic self-expression and how transformative it can be for your life. In her workspace, she now activates her clients to pursue their wildest dreams and design the life that they crave. All right, now, if none of that interested you, I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, we've got such a good episode ahead. So let's get to the interview with Chelsea. All right. So I am here today with Chelsea Camin. Welcome to the No Wrong Notes podcast, Chelsea.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have you here. We were just talking before we hit the record button about how the last time we talked, it was on Instagram Live about aliens and,
and assorted topics,
yes.
But then we were like X-Files and there's life. Yeah.
Right? Yes. So I've always loved that we kind of have this kind of spiritual woo thing in common. So love that. But before we get into all of that, how about you tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today as a past life hypnotist and an activation witch.
It's a little bit of a journey. So Veronica knows me formally as a voice teacher, just a voice teacher, with some spiritual, I had at that point done some spiritual mentoring, and that was when I started to branch away from solidly just doing voice coaching and then switching into that more spiritual, which you kind of saw that whole transition unfold. And I had been back and forth on my spiritual journey, and of course I felt that pull to do spiritual work, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't emotionally or mentally ready to really give up that piece of myself, the voice part, where I invested so much time, money, energy, and it really was my life's work. But I was growing and changing in ways that I hadn't even anticipated, especially after motherhood. especially as I also learned about my neurodivergence and just other things that I always kept myself at a perfectionist level. And I think also working in that field was also somewhat triggering for me because it demands perfection, especially in New York, in the way that I was coaching and in the level of perfection that my students also demand from me and their families. And it was just really I hate to say toxic, but it wasn't a great environment for me at the end of my time in New York. And so I made that transition. As I left New York, I was burnt out. So there were very clear cut signs that like clearly I needed to make a change within the boundaries of how I was working, and also possibly doing work that was less taxing for a time. And so I've noticed, like, as I transitioned working as a past life hypnotist, regression, all of that, what I like about it is it's very natural for me to go into trance and just spiritually connect and speak to the dead. Like, it's actually a little bit easier in some ways for me at times than voice teaching, because the voice teaching component, I know it sounds crazy, but the voice teaching component required so much of my performance, so much of this feeling of, not like I would act, but it's like there's another level of motivation, encouragement, things like that. Whereas I could be more baseline with my energy. And I can also just like take it, like give it over to spirit. And I'm also here, but I found that it was a great way for me to actually branch off and give my body a rest and give myself a break from voice teaching. And also I was kind of burnt out, really just burnt out, especially from the pandemic and everything. So ultimately we made the choice to move from New York. Sorry, I'm just like giving the entire smattering.
No, please share all of this.
All
I
right,
really enjoy
cool.
hearing it.
So ultimately, I left New York really burnt out and knowing that I needed some more growth to do. So I just kept taking these risks that would normally have been scary for me, but I did it to benefit my family, to also benefit me, because then my husband was able to work full time and start his journey here. So he works at Sweetwater, if you're familiar. Anyone listening, it's a huge music company, distribution, everything that is
Oh,
located in
yeah.
Fort Wayne, Indiana. So he's still working in that arena, and it gave me a chance to slow down, full-time parent, and then get her into preschool. And so it just fit in with my life. So I just was starting to do the things that felt a lot easier rather than felt like I have to do this. I have to do this. I grew up in a household. Yeah. Did you want to say
Yeah,
that?
no. Well, like
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it really sounds like you were leaning into tuning into that inner voice, that inner
Yeah.
wisdom,
Right.
and kind of that intuition, and kind of saying, like, this isn't working for me,
Right.
and what might my soul need instead?
Exactly. Exactly. So it took some time though, because you go through like a huge ego death, letting go of music and things like that. And I never thought I would return to it, but I've noticed in my work that the voice component has transformed in a way. So the way I normally was coaching as a voice teacher, it kind of like transitioned. And I started noticing within my witch community, within my spiritual community, that there was a need for a vocal activation or this vocal support, because the more I started to go on my journey, my spiritual journey, I mean, I feel like my insides have completely changed in a way that I feel much more comfortable taking up space, being visible. And I feel like when I was a voice teacher, I felt less comfortable using my voice. And as a spiritual teacher now, and as someone that does activations, hypnosis, things like that, I actually got clearer in my voice, my messaging, and feel safer to be visible, to be bigger, to share my message. So now in my voice activation work, it's a lot about inner work and how the inner work also allows for us to amplify our true magnetic essence. And a lot of my work has to do, like, I'm writing a book right now. It's a Stop Saying Yes, which is an entire book about boundaries and just the people pleaser in us, just wanting to constantly make everyone else happy, but in turn we are small. So I have a lot of different little projects, but ultimately it all leads to getting people to feel liberated, getting people to feel like they have a connection to parts of themselves that they never knew before. When we do past life work, it's a kick in the pants, because then you're like, oh, I did nothing, or oh my god, I had the love of my life. It really pushes you to want more for your current life. So I use all these modalities to just really liberate people, activate people, allow people to see like their authentic beauty and their authentic voice. And it's just like this whole experience that now I create because I also have the voice component.
I
So
love this. This is
yeah,
so cool. I'm just like, oh wow, this all
desk.
sounds so
I know.
amazing.
It's so activating for me, but it's also so enriching. And so I'm creating a program. It's starting in March. It's called Fire and Ice, but it's about tapping into, and this is how I really did it all, but as women, I feel like we are so silenced in many ways. We're taught to like not be sensual, don't put yourself out there, like you're not safe and all that. But what if we reframe it as this divine feminine power that we take back, our vitality, our sensuality, and channel that into creativity? And what if I taught people that creative exchange, that, you know, because I feel like a lot of us were like choir girls, and then we're just like, be virginal and be, and we're teachers, so don't say the S word, you know, like we're teachers, the kids are listening, you know. So like that took a lot too. I needed all my kids to grow up and be like
Yeah.
18 to 20, like, you know, so yeah, I don't want anybody listening to this that's underage, but it's so important as artists that we really harness that creative sensuality, because there's so much vitality and creativity within that divine feminine. And I work also, I'm just, you haven't asked a question. I'm just
No,
going off.
I love this. This is so good. And I
Okay.
want to kind of go back to
Yeah,
touching
sure.
upon like sensuality. I had read this book. I can't remember which one it was, but they were talking about sensuality and how it's not just a, obviously it's used a lot in like kind of a sexual context, but
Right.
it's not just about that. It's, I mean, the
No.
word sense is in that word,
Right.
where it's like tuning into your senses, like what you are
Yes.
seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling.
Yes.
It's not just this like taboo thing.
Right.
It's
It's not just
like
like,
really being in your body, you know?
right. Like what I like to also use is like using that sensuality in a lens of how can I enjoy myself? How can I enjoy being with my presence? Because it really makes a difference if you are putting on, you know, if you put on like a good playlist, you got your mood lighting, like to romance yourself and to just enjoy your body, enjoy being in your space and just really feel that. And I think so many of us who are partnered, we forget how we are, you know, sexy in our own way, sensual in our own way, creative in our own way, because we tend as women to perform. I am this, I'll be this for you, I'll be oh, you want me to play schoolgirl? No, but like it's like, you know what I mean, like it's always like let me perform, and then we tap out of our own pleasures because we're like, I'm performing for you because I'm being perceived, because, and it's just this whole patriarchal thing. But if you remember, like, oh yeah, like before I dated anyone, I was like, look at my cute, you know, like when you're a girl, you know, oh my God, it's so embarrassing, right? We're like making out with the mirror, like, okay, yeah, like feeling myself. I don't know.
Right? Feeling
I was a
myself.
crazy kid, okay? But like, you know, in those moments, you are very in tune with yourself, and you find it's easier to be in tune with yourself when you're more like single and younger and things like that. You're exploring, you're learning new things. And then there comes a point where you get married, you have the kid. And so this program is really for like a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, where we've kind of tapped out. We're like really just doing the day-to-day life things. But it's in a really safe container. Like I don't, you know, put myself out there like, look at everything, you know, like I'm a very safe space to explore these things with, because it took me time to get there. Like I also, it took a really long time because, you know, I just had this also vision, like I'm a teacher, you know, this is wrong, my own shame behind that. So using that also just helped me liberate myself and allow myself to see like we deserve to harness that energy to be creative And then, so the program is ultimately using that dark feminine energy. We're going to be also working with goddesses and kind of honing in on those archetypes and
Yeah.
seeing like what lights each of us up, because the work that I do is deeply subconscious now. So the subconscious is all about your ultimate desires, your
Mm.
ultimate needs, not just the conscious manifestations of, whatever you want. Like, oh, like I could manifest like, okay, I think I want to be with this tall, handsome guy, right? But like,
Mm.
what if your real deep desires are a short, like whatever, like this random guy, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it might be. Like, a lot of us tend to push down what we truly, truly want because of how society is looking at us. So
Mm.
you'll see a lot of adults become extremely depraved because they're not actually honing in, like tapping into what they really desire. So it becomes this Jekyll and Hyde complex rather
Yeah.
than this integrated shadow of like, this is what I truly want for myself. I don't want to disconnect from this in my life because I'm playing a role of educator. I don't
Yeah.
want to disconnect. So it's also about, for me, finding what is the work that I truly, truly want to do that feels so authentic to me. And that component was the one thing that I was like, I always hide this in me. I never talk about this. This is like taboo. I can't, the virgin ears, like like I was so afraid, you know what I mean? Like I was so afraid to kind of venture into that, but there's a part of myself that wants to express that. So just going on my own personal journey and figuring out what is it exactly that I need to fully express. And a lot of the people in my community resonate with this because we all make ourselves small. And when we
Mm.
make ourselves small, we can't express ourselves. When we can't express ourselves, then we really don't move into the work that we feel called to do.
Yeah.
And we don't feel strong enough to talk about it. And so it's just been this perpetual, this season of change for me. I've been growing and just finding the things that light me up. And so I got really lucky that all the things that I've done in the past and all the things that I'm currently doing really create this program. So I'm going to have guest classes. I'm going to have like a tantric
Awesome.
meditation.
Yeah.
I have a hypnotherapist coming in, just kind of like getting us used to like, okay, what is it that we truly desire, want, and how do we make that a reality without it being like, oh god, that's my dark side, but somehow where we integrate that shadow or that side that's like, okay, this is really,
Yeah.
really, really what I want. Because
Absolutely.
so many of us are feeling like there's something missing, but you don't know what, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
totally.
this is an activation for that anyway.
I love that. No, this
Thank
is so
you.
awesome. This is really, really cool. And so going off of some of the ideas you were presenting, I also really liked how you were talking about like our subconscious desires and things like that, and not being afraid to fully express what we want and voice what we want, right?
Right.
I think of being a child and like having those dreams of like being a singer, like being a pop
Yeah.
singer. And obviously, there are very real like limitations to that dream. And, there are limitations to some of the things that we want.
Right.
But what would it look like for, I think of the people that might be listening to this podcast that maybe do have those dreams of like making their EP go viral on TikTok,
For
or
sure.
getting that role in their community, musical and that sort of thing. What would it look like to really own those dreams and like I guess I'm trying to get into sort of some of the processes
Yeah.
that you're kind of talking about.
Hmm.
Like what would some of that work look like to really make those dreams a reality, I guess? What would someone have
Yeah.
to do?
So a lot of it is if you have the conscious desire, right? A lot of times we have the conscious want and desire to be a performer, to be a pop star. What happens is there's this cognitive dissonance or this subconscious conscious dissonance that occurs if we are also the types of people that don't really want to do the things that entail that greatness. So part of it is also just like, can we get really, really clear on like, you want to be on Broadway, but can you also imagine yourself learning an entire musical in 2 days? Can you also understand that, like, you have to understand that the lifestyle and the reality of it has to also be in alignment with your conscious desires? Because I think a lot of young performers find the ultimate day in, day out auditions taxing, and then having to work, and it's life catches up. And as much as like I am a very encouraging person and I would always be like, follow your dreams, it's ultimately that child's decision, that student's decision, and their life lesson as well. So I'm never like steering people away from anything. I'm never one of those teachers that are like, good luck, like I'm usually like very, very encouraging, but ultimately it is your journey. Like
Yeah.
I would never say like, well, if you want to do music, find something else that you like. I've heard that personally, if you like something other than music, go into that, right? But really, what it is when you have that subconscious, you have subconscious beliefs, desires, needs, and wants. And a lot of those things are very subtly expressed in our day to day. But it's that, when you go to sleep at night, that feeling of, I'm not good enough, or I'll never get this, or, there's so much work that we kind of have to do that teenagers don't do yet. So that's why, like, picking the major and going through all that, like we go through a lot of trial by fire, and we also figure out like, is this the lifestyle for me? So a lot of times, like, there's no way to really like stop an 18-year-old from majoring in
Oh, absolutely.
an audition, right? There's no way to stop us, right? When you're 18. But I think it's so important because I think life is a school, and it's really up to us to take those lessons and not worry about perfection, but to just worry about like, okay, I've been handed a trial, a tribulation, and I can really trust myself to move through this. So a lot of it is not so much like about like subconscious conscious in the beginning, but it's also about like the confidence and knowing that you will have your back. And sometimes you have to go through a lot of stuff before you realize like, okay, I'm a boss and I can handle this. So yeah, the subconscious beliefs are really, it's more than an affirmation like I can do anything. It's really like this deep seated understanding that you will get through anything. You have to prove it to yourself first, though.
Yep.
Like, no one can, like, I can't actually teach someone to just believe it. It's really, you have to go through it and realize how strong you really are to be able to kind of like get to your goals. But a lot of it is, yeah, just figuring out, is this the lifestyle for me? Is this what I truly,
Yeah.
truly want day to day for 20 years? Do I thrive on that environment? If I get really honest with myself, what do I thrive on? Is this sustainable for me? Have I just been doing this for, high school? And then as I get older, it's going to get old. And just figuring out the life of your dreams, the partner of your dreams. Like, there's so many things that, performance does and doesn't fit into certain people's lifestyles. So it's really just ultimately about everything you truly, truly want and desire. And a lot of that comes after we pick the career, and then we start growing up. And once we get to our 30s, we're like, oh, I like that instead, or I want to do
Yes.
this, or,
Yes.
like that would really light me up, Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
No, definitely. And I think that I feel like I definitely resonate with a lot of what you were saying there because it's like I had all of these dreams of like going into the opera world and being a young artist and things like that. And then getting face to face with like graduating with my master's degree, I'm realizing like I don't know that I want to live out of a suitcase for
Right.
forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
And really taking some time to, work and get to know myself. I think you're hitting upon something there where it's like you have to kind of really be honest with yourself when it comes to your dreams and that sort of thing, and just sort of like understanding what will it actually take beyond all of what I subconsciously
Right.
desire and what I consciously desire. Is this actually something that I have the time and energy and
Right.
resources for?
Right. And
And
resources, yeah, tend to
yeah,
be the biggest thing, especially if you're trying to go big, big, big New York City.
yeah,
And some of us, we are just as satisfied with doing community theater And
Yes.
ultimately, what I found is, a lot of us that go into music, a lot of us that want that praise and attention, we have some sort of worthiness wound. We have some sort of, please pay attention, please love me, please look at me. And that's where, it really is about honing in on what is it that I need rather than what is it that I can do to receive what I need.
Oh my gosh. I am literally just like everything you're saying like yes, yes,
I
yes, cuz
got you.
it's like we have all of these dreams and things like that, but at the same time as we are growing, especially like as we're growing up, we're sort of taking in all of these things and there's wounds that are being created and those
Yes.
wounds oftentimes get in the way of what it is that we truly desire,
Right.
you
And
know?
and the reason why it takes so long is because, when you get to your 20s, you've just sped through all the trauma in your teens. You
Mhm.
get to your 20s and you're like, I have to hit these landmarks. I have to get married, I have to have a business, I have to have a baby, I have to this is my story. And then I have to, like and I have to, do this is this. And then, you burn yourself out or
Mhm.
you find a lot of women, we tend to go, oh, I'm unhappy. Like we've heard this story over and over again. Eat, pray, love. Like and you know what I mean? Like we've heard this over and over again, but you don't really realize it until you're the woman in your 30s. You're like, I'll
Uh-huh.
never be like that. I'll always be perfect. And I'll, like I'll never have to. And it's like, no, that's actually so stifling to just want to be a perfect wife and a perfect mother. And it's like, no, like make it colorful, make it, you don't have to be perfect. Repair is important. You don't have to be perfect.
Mhm.
Live your life, like do things that still make you happy. Find where the controlling aspects in your life are coming from. But it's truly about ultimate liberation. Like how can I just truly express myself and truly feel fulfilled by what I'm doing, who I am, just by finding the things that feel good and not being ashamed of it anymore, not being like, oh, but I could never. Like that was me for the longest time. I could never fully do spiritual coaching. I don't have the confidence. I wouldn't even, I'm barely even, like it would just be like back and forth, back and forth. And it's like when you really decide, like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I like. It's the likes and the desires that really lead us to the most fulfilling life rather than what is it that I need to look like I'm doing? What is it that I need to be perceived as so that I'm a good girl, that that I can play that it fits into the narrative that I want to fit into, where everyone's just like so proud of how perfect I am, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is all just so good. And I know that I had all these like questions
No,
prepared for
you're
you, but
fine. Go ahead.
I'm loving where this conversation is going and where it's taking us. I did want to ask, we have been talking about wounds and things like that. And I can see that I can understand that there's probably going to be people listening that will be like, well, I know I have these wounds and, I still have a hard time, and I definitely have a hard time like expressing myself and using my voice in my life and my musical work. It's like,
Sure.
yes, I know I have this wound, but how do I get from that wound to using my voice
Right.
in my work, my musical work and in my life, I think that some people have a hard time connecting kind of those
Yeah,
two
like how
things.
do I, yeah. So this is, I mean, and this is part of my like work as like kind of an alchemist in I take a lot of what I see doesn't work in my life and in my clients' lives. And I figure out a route that feels fulfilling for them and feels less scary. Also, day to day, we can change and also like just kind of go with the flow of not again being perfect in our healing. Again, it's a lot of it is stripping down the perfection, the shoulds, the woulds, the coulds, like of our own minds, and just remembering that we change every day whether or not we're really like working on it, like we are all growing up. Like I'm a different person than I was at 20 years old just because of life experiences and just like pushing myself to grow. It's not just about like, okay, I've read all these books and I've been to therapy and like I'm doing all the things, because I think we also as spiritual people, as people trying their wellness journey, I think we also are like, I mean, I don't know what's wrong, I was so good today, I did this, I meditated. It's like you have to still be a human. So a lot of it is also give yourself grace that you're still human. You're not superhuman. You're superhuman. So let yourself just be. Don't put the pressure on yourself that it's going to change overnight, but make those small changes that make you proud of yourself every day. So things that might make me feel more empowered, getting on the bike for 30 minutes, and it's just lifestyle changes. Or, okay, I promised myself I'd write 100 words today, like for my book, 1,000 words. I did it. I checked it off the list. I'm proud of myself. So you have to be doing things, again, not that make other people proud of you, but that make you proud of you. Okay, I got out of bed today. And I have different scenarios for each day. Like some days I feel like being really lazy and I feel like just vegetating. That's a new reframe for me too. I have to remember I need this day so I can rest, so I can fill up my cup again, so that I can move forward, so that I can continue my goals in life. And just feeling, again, it's feeling into my energy, feeling into, my capacity for the day, feeling into, also, if I know I'm going to have a client later, I got to give my kid a bath. I got, like, it's not just about, okay, one track mind, I have one goal in mind, but also just about finding how does everything fit in together. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm autistic, I can see all these things in front of me, you know what I mean? So like, okay, I might have a little bit of a, an upper hand on that if somebody doesn't know how to change things. But it's like, start by making yourself proud, start by giving yourself little goals that like you just wanted to do. Like, I still want to crochet, like get the freaking Wooble kit, okay? Just do it. I'm like, just do it, I always wanted to write a book. I made a goal for myself. You know what? No pressure. Every day I'm going to write 1,000 words if I can. Again, if I was under it, not a big deal. Who's going to yell at me? Me? No. So
Yes, and
I
it's also
just,
like it's also being like you
flexible.
said, giving yourself grace and
Yes.
allowing yourself to be
How
flexible.
would you reparent yourself through it?
Yeah.
How would you, and I got to say, like, my child's an amazing totem for me in that way, because I would think, how would I talk to her? How would I encourage her? How would I motivate her to get to her goals? I don't want to stress her out because she already has that perfectionist tendency. So, how would I cultivate it in my child? Then I cultivate it in myself. And just by talking to yourself in these ways, it really unmasks those restrictions that our parents tended to put on us just because of the generation they're a part of.
Yeah.
No shame in the game, generation they're a part of, just the way the world was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Things have changed. And I want to keep cultivating a future that my own daughter feels liberated and able to be herself and doesn't feel the need to play the victim. Because a lot of times, when we're not in charge, we have to play the victim because that's the narrative of us, of ourselves in this kind of like patriarchal society and everything.
Yeah,
So it's also like
absolutely.
an empowering thing to take back your power and
Yes.
love your body and speak your truth and everything. And if no one likes it, it's also the perfect repellent for people you don't want to be around, and the perfect magnet for people that really are into your energy. It's like the perfect polar kind of magnetism for people, because you'll
Yes.
either attract or repel that which you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, the clearer we are in who we are, in what we do, in what we love, what we like, we also just better manifest the true things that we want in our lives. So when we're young, we go,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this. It's like, you don't even know who you are. You don't. I got married at 24 years old. I don't know anything. Like, I'm a totally different person now, and we're having those conversations. Like, yo, my needs have changed. I'm a grown woman now. Like, I got my master's. What are you gonna bring to the table? You know what I
Oh.
mean? Like, it's just a totally different.
Yeah, no, and I love too how you were saying like it when it comes to getting from point A to point B, from getting to a place where you recognize like, oh, I tend to self-sabotage, or
Yeah.
oh, I tend to have this wound, to getting to feeling more free to
Mm-hmm.
express yourself, whether that is through singing and other creative outlets. Getting from that point to that point, and you know, learning to trust and love yourself more. It can look like going to therapy, but it can also look like going on a bike ride for 30 minutes,
Literally
doing
just
something,
love
yeah.
yourself. Literally just find ways to love yourself. And what also helped me was I got rid of the people in my life that weren't showing me love. And it's like, how is this all connected to the voice? Because the people, like, I would have a lot of jealous friends in my life, and jealous of any perceived success, jealous
Mm.
of my students, studio, whatever, how I look, what I'm like, just whatever it was. So the more that I started really honing in on the people that really gave back to me, rather than trying to people please and just be friends with everyone. But the more I really stuck with the people that were cheering me on, like authentic cheerleading, like,
Yes.
wow,
Yeah.
you're doing an amazing job, the people that were just staying with me, not hate watching, it started to also just validate me more. And so now I have incredible friends in my life, compared to just a few years ago, because I really thought, again, on that subconscious level, I deserved to not really be loved. I deserved that kind of treatment. And then eventually, things change because you realize, like, wait, I deserve more. I deserve better. But sometimes people are scared, like, I know I deserve more and better, but they don't know how to get there. The scary
Mm.
leap of faith
Yeah.
is transforming your life and getting, it's like getting out of, an abusive relationship, or it's like, I don't know that little like bridge to get from point A to point B, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know I have to do something very hard to get across that
Yes.
bridge. And so often we are stopped by the fear and the stressors and, like, the worldly, like, how am I going to afford it? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Rather than making the small plans. Okay, I'm going to get a night job. I'm going to get something that helps me, move forward. A lot of times we just get stuck, and we're in like that, that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn kind of, um, yeah, like those emotional states where you're just like, I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. Like, I don't know how to move
Yeah.
forward. So oftentimes I'll also like work subconsciously, especially in past life work too, where we, see the moments in which we froze and work through that and heal that timeline. And also remember that, like, okay, as a spirit, as a soul, I am limitless. I have multiple lives that I can experience. So how can I get the most out of this one? And how can I also not
Yeah.
repeat the patterns that I repeated in the past? And so it's like, for me, it's so empowering and really eye-opening to kind of go into past lives as well, because it just kind of also kind of fortifies that need to do the present life coaching and like really move people in the direction of their dreams. So yeah, it's usually like that little space of, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but making those little plans too. Like, okay, you're going to work online, or you're going to do this, or you're going to talk to
Yeah.
someone, you're going to, like, there's always steps to move forward. We just
Yeah.
have to like think outside the box very creatively.
Yes. Yeah, no, I love that. Definitely thinking outside of the box and understanding that when it comes to any sort of change that you want to make in your life, whether that is something personal or something in your voice, I mean, there's going to have to be something maybe that is uncomfortable that might happen
Yes,
along the
for
way.
sure.
I think of so like this is getting a little far out there, but obviously Pluto just moved into Aquarius.
Ooh, ooh. Yes, it
And as
did.
someone who has an Aquarius stellium in her chart,
Dang.
where my Mercury is in Aquarius, I think my IC is in, I think, no, it's in the fourth house. But basically, I've got my Mercury, Sun, and Saturn all in Aquarius.
Okay.
And so like, and Pluto has been aspecting like my ascendant and like all of these things. It's like something that I've definitely been learning through that process is that, like, with Pluto, Pluto's the destroyer, but it also like is kind of the planet of rebirth, where it's kind of
Yes.
like, you mentioned trial by fire earlier, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, as I'm moving through this, it's like, yes, it's challenging, in these different
Yeah.
aspects of my life with these different things going on. But as I come out on the other side of like everything I've kind of gone through in the past 2 years, it's like even greater abundance than I could have imagined.
Yes.
So it's like,
Yes.
when going back to kind of more the voice part of things, it's like when someone is thinking about, what they need to do to get to their goals, or like, whether they want to really push their EP out there online. It's like, okay, well, what will you need to do? You might have to go through some uncomfortable moments, especially too if you're promoting your music online.
Yes.
It can be really scary to put yourself out there and make content, but it's like,
you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, what
and that's
might
the
be
other
on the
thing.
other
Yeah.
side? Yeah, what might be on the other side of that?
Exactly.
Of that discomfort.
Exactly. So. And it's and what it also teaches us, I find I also like grow just by continuously posting content too, because it really makes me realize like, okay, what's my one true message? What am I really about? And also like, who am I doing this for? It's not just me, obviously.
Exactly, yeah.
Again, it's not how can I receive love and adoration and fans, but how can I actually move into my purpose, my mission, so that I can activate and help others. So also noting what am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? I've always wanted to help people and change lives. And I knew that singers that I listened to helped me and changed my life, but not necessarily through any type of alchemy in itself, just by listening, being touched by it and all of that. So just getting clear, like, okay, how do I want to transform lives? Do I want to transform lives the way I feel, when I hear like Barbara Streisand, when I heard, when she was singing, in the 90s, but, like I would look at that and be like, wow, like that stuff touches me. I love those roles. I love those characters. And it's like, do you really love acting or do you like dressing up? You know what I mean?
Ooh,
like
yes.
just figure out like, what is it? Do I like to dress up and be pretty? And you know what I mean? Like there's just things that are a part of performing that you can do without having to perform. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
drag your boyfriend into the room and be like, I gotta dance for you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like a lot of times that's all we want. We just want attention from one person, or a lot of it is this intimacy struggle in the performing arts. To be seen, to be loved, to be noticed. And it's like, how else can you give that to yourself? How else can you get that? You can dance by yourself,
Yes, I love this. Oh my gosh. There's so much that we've talked about that is just so good. So many good like nuggets of wisdom for like everybody, and I just love it. There's so much more that I could talk to you about, but I do want to move on to our rapid fire questions.
Oh dang.
Kind of coming to the end.
I'm excited.
So my first rapid fire is coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right, coffee. What's your sun, moon, and rising? And just for like the people that don't listen to astrology that might be listening to this, these are like 3 parts of your birth chart, like in astrology. But what is your sun, moon, and rising?
Scorpio, Scorpio, and Scorpio.
Oh my God.
So just by that, it's like I cannot do voice teaching alone anymore. Like there's some darkness that needed to be expressed.
Oh my God. For those of you that are not astrology girlies, like me and Chelsea here, Scorpio is like, I mean,
pretty intense.
It's intense energy.
Rebirth.
Transformative energy.
Dark.
Ruled by Pluto, right?
Yes. It's all about that. Like I'm always about death and rebirth. So a lot of my life looks crazy to most people, but I'm like, riding the wave.
Riding the wave.
Riding the wave.
I love it. What is your favorite crystal, if you have one?
Rose quartz. I love love.
Oh, I love rose quartz.
I always love love.
Yes. Song that is currently stuck in your head, or that you have stuck in your head recently.
Okay. Recently, it's been Carly Simon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Tranquilo. I freaking...
Yeah, okay.
It's called Melt My Heart, and it's got this funky...
Oh, nice. Yeah. Love it. Love Carly Simon. Nice. Okay. Next one is last TV show you watched.
Oh my God, I've been so into cult shows lately.
Me too.
So I'd been doing oh my God, I did Love Has Won. I did
finished that. We just finished that like on Friday.
The Natalia Grace. Did you get into that? Oh my God. Any type of cult or something weird, anything like that. But I would say that. Let's go with those answers.
I love that. Yeah, we literally just finished Love Is One like on Friday, and we had watched the Twin Flames doc on Netflix.
Twin Flames universe. Yes.
All right, the best place you've ever traveled to?
My favorite place. is California, even though I've traveled to France. Is that crazy? Like California.
I love California too. It's good. It's good. What is your favorite book?
Oh, ultimate. I really liked The Time Traveler's Wife because it's very, very Chelsea coded. Time traveling, love, romance.
Yeah, love it. All right, well, that is all of our rapid
I
fire
love
questions.
it.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on here and talking to me about
Oh my
these
God.
topics.
Always.
Feel so inspired, even just like talking to you right now. It's like really brightened my day. So this is like things
That's that activation, baby.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
yeah, that's all.
Yay. Bye.
Yay, bye, everybody. Okay, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed that episode of the No Wrong Notes podcast. Thanks for bearing with me and all my mic issues. For those of y'all that are a little bit more audio sensitive, y'all might have noticed that my mic was doing some weird stuff during that interview. Fun fact. Before you start recording something, make sure that your microphone is facing towards you, that the front of the microphone is facing towards you. I had been messing around with my microphone and moving things around in my office, and it got all turned around, which is why some of the audio issues that you heard were present. But obviously got that all figured out now, and I hope y'all enjoyed this episode anyway. I had a lot of fun talking with Chelsea, and if you did enjoy this episode, I'd love it if you could leave a 5-star rating and review on your platform of choice. And in the meantime, happy singing, y'all.